Hey, what's up? This is Kev from the FLAFFL House Fantasy Football Podcast, and you're listening to the BS Podcast Network. Enjoy the show.
In a world of ordinary fantasy football podcasts, ordinary guys rise up to bring you extraordinary analysis and entertainment. This is the FLAFFL House Fantasy Football Podcast with your hosts Kevin Cotillo, Sal Lito, and Stephen Marcus.
Me and my plug sipping Don Julio. You out of bounds, we touching down like Julio. 1 o'clock, Sunday pack, touchdown. All green grass, stretch 100 yards. Waiting on the jewel, them my Florida boys. Say he want some Dolphins, ask me what I charge. Julio to work, gon' remix that boy. I got Hail Mary money, cause my money long. I got them dirty birds, I'm talking Falcon. You know I chug and count on every beat I'm on. I got them dirty birds, call me Julio. Soon as the work touch, we make it Julio.
What is up, Falafel? Welcome to the show. Today is Monday. It is November 27th. This is the Falafel House Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Cotillo, and I would like to welcome Steve Marcus. What's going on, Steve?
Oh, not much. Not much at all.
How are you?
Oh, I'm doing all right. I'm, a little downtrodden. After this week 12, I'm going to be finding myself towards the bottom of the falafel standings yet again. Fighting for my life. One more season. It's tough.
I think we all looked at last year as an aberration, but 2 years makes a trend, my friend.
Yeah, it's not cool. I'm not very happy. I'm not very happy how this holiday weekend went. Thanksgiving supposed to be a good time. Vernon Davis, thanks for nothing. Thanks for nothing. You cost me a win, buddy. Cost me.
You save that talk for Festivus.
All right.
Speaking of Festivus, we have to bring in our favorite Festivus host, Mr. Sal Lito. What's going on, Sal?
Hello, boys and girls. How are you today?
Are you ready for Festivus? Festivus is a big day for you. I know that. I know that it's something you look forward to all year. Are you prepped? Are you getting there?
Yeah, I've been getting limber for the feats of strength. Once again, I believe that this year's rant will include my Scott Fishbowl team, as it performed just as poorly as it did last year.
Becoming a tradition?
Yeah, that's my own holiday tradition, to be out of the playoffs around this time of year every year in the Scott Fishbowl. You might be able to hear that my voice is a little bit raspier than even usual today. It's a little hoarse because I did spend yesterday evening, at Stony Brook University watching our local high school football team win the Long Island Championship. So for those of you who remember when we had Jeremy Ruckert on the show, the tight end from our town that's going to be going to Ohio State, he helped lead that team to a Long Island Championship, the first one in the school's history. And it was a very exciting game, probably better than anything anybody watched in the NFL yesterday. And we celebrated tremendously.
Hey, as part of the Festivus Feats of Strength, can we get Jeremy to come see if Steve can tackle him?
What?
Can we make that happen?
No.
No. Son.
Yeah, I've got a child that I would like to see grow into a man, and I don't need to be cutting that short by any means.
I think it'd be fun to see you tackle this guy.
I think it'd be fun to see you try to tackle him, actually. Why don't you go ahead and step up to do that?
I think we all know where the true comedy lies, and that would be in seeing you tackle a giant of a man.
No, it would be nothing like that. It
Right.
would be nothing like that.
Well, listen, we have to apologize to the listeners right off the bat because we are a day late on our review podcast. Frankly, it was a good holiday for us. We took some time off. We missed Thursday, we missed Sunday, and we're here now. But thank you for allowing us to take some time off and still bring you a mediocre show. And with that, I guess no one else.
On behalf of all the people, you're welcome. I was telling you you're welcome.
I appreciate that. So we're going to go through all the games from Sunday. It is Monday for us, so this hopefully won't be too late for the rest of you. But Sal, who was off gallivanting around watching high school students play football. He's going to be the one to take us through all the games. So why don't you get to it, Sal?
Well, I guess we'll start with this, this wonderful NFC South clash between the Buccaneers and the Falcons. And guys, over recent weeks, the Falcons have really turned their season back around, and they are starting to produce. And finally, we got the big Julio Jones game in this one yesterday, Steve. But it wasn't Matt Ryan who passed the ball to him. Mohamed Sanu, who is 6 for 6 in his career, passing the ball through a 51-yard touchdown to Julio, and that started him off on a 12-53 two-touchdown day. What an amazing day if you owned him in Falafel. But let's look around at the rest of the team. Matt Ryan actually did play well, 317 yards and a touchdown, and Tevin Coleman, who's been getting all the work with Freeman out, 19 for 97. Kevin, let me ask you, do you think now that they're playing well and they've played well in games without Freeman that they might let him rest a little bit more? So should Freeman owners a little bit worried about how well they're playing without him?
Yeah, I don't know if they should be worried or not. I mean, I think Coleman definitely has warranted some more work, but we've seen both of these guys be productive, in the past when they're both getting a decent amount of touches. I think they will ease Freeman back in, so that's something you want to be concerned about because, obviously we're getting to week 13 coming up, which is the final week for most fantasy regular seasons, and then you're in the playoffs. So if Freeman comes back this week, maybe they ease him in and you feel more comfortable going into the playoffs with him if he's on your roster. But I don't think it's a huge concern because I think they're still going to use him.
Okay. So Sanu adds 8 catches for 64 yards along with the passing touchdown, and he gives you a nice serviceable day. Steve, let's go over to the Tampa Bay side. I mean, this team's just not that good. I mean. Did anybody start Barber who ended up with 2 touchdowns in this game? Because Jacquizz Rodgers, 8 for 31. Doug Martin, 7 for 33. Was there anybody of value in this offense yesterday at all? And is there any value, seeing your guy Brate 1 for 6 again? Is there any value with anybody going forward? I mean, Mike Evans has been ordinary lately.
Yeah, with Ryan Fitzpatrick running this offense, it hasn't been the same by any means. Doug Martin, he left the game with a concussion, which is why Peyton Barber came in and got those carries that he did. He got the goal line work and converted them into 2 touchdowns, so good for him. I'm sure nobody benefited from that. But yeah, while Fitzpatrick is running this offense, which who knows for how much longer, it has been rumored that Jameis Winston will get back into practice this week. If that means he starts on Sunday, who knows? But we will have to obviously pay attention to that going forward. You just have to kind of take a step back on all of these guys. Evans got 6 for 78, which in a PPR league is not terrible, but not what you would expect from him. Deshaun Jackson, he was 8 for 60, not bad at all. O.J. Howard, he continues to benefit from Ryan Fitzpatrick being in the game, as Jameis Winston loves Cameron Brate, and Ryan Fitzpatrick hates him. So
it's not because Howard's the better tight end.
No,
we're not there yet.
Nope, not there.
Okay.
We're not going there.
Okay.
Not doing it.
Right.
Not yet. Not this season. When do we
get to that point?
2018.
At what point do we?
2018. Okay. I'll be there.
Right. I just want to make sure that because we did bet a little bit about which one's going to be more useful down for the rest of the season. I believe if you remember. So I just want to throw that out there that
fake news.
Okay.
Didn't happen.
Good. Glad we talked about that.
That's right.
Sal, funny story about Peyton Barber. We've talked a little bit on this podcast about my horrible team in a league that we are both in which I am royally tanking and doing a good job of it, I might add. I almost started Peyton Barber because that's how thin that roster is. There is no one that should be starting Peyton Barber, but he did almost get the start. Luckily, I didn't put him in because I may have won the game, and that would be horrible for me. So. Yeah,
sometimes that productive struggle, would you call it?
Productive struggle.
Yeah.
Yes.
It can bite you right in your productive ass. So.
That's right. It'll be a long road back. I'll tell you that much.
I think we covered all the wonderfulness of Tampa Bay.
I'm sorry. I got one question before we move on because we have to move on. If Devontae Freeman is back next week, do you start Tevin Coleman in the pivotal Week 13, like you said, heading into the fantasy playoffs?
Yes.
So, I would be. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
I agree.
To me, it's not. It's
yeah,
not even
I
a
definitely
question.
would be.
I agree. That's all I had.
All right, great. So we switch over to an AFC battle, Battle of Ohio, Cincinnati Bengals against the Cleveland Browns, and it's funny. I'm hearing that like Cincinnati is in the playoff race now. Is that really true? I mean, how bad is it in the AFC this year that they're in the playoff hunt?
Strangely, they could get to 10-6. I mean, they'd have to run the table, but it can happen.
I don't see it.
No, it definitely can happen, and that's my point behind how bad the AFC is this year. So let's start on the Cleveland side, and this is another offense where yesterday, legitimately, I don't think anybody started Kaiser, and so if you didn't start him, there was not one single other person that you got good fantasy value out of. Now, Crowell goes 16 for 95, but he does nothing in the pass. I'm sorry, he had 1 for 10, so he did break double digits, but there's another team, much like Tampa Bay. The playoffs are coming. You're going to start making a short list of guys that you're going to have in your weekly lineups. Is there anybody in Cleveland you're excited about going forward?
No.
I mean, I think Duke Johnson is a flex-worthy PPR value. What? A flex?
Let's just knock it off.
What?
There's nothing on this offense worth starting at this point. I like Duke Johnson. He got you 67 yards, and maybe 4 catches. So in a full PPR, you're talking 10 points. I guess that's serviceable. Corey Coleman 3 for 64. Maybe he's a guy that you might look at just as a flex. But if you're talking about being a playoff bound team, Duke Johnson's not getting it done, and he's most likely not cracking your starting lineup.
No,
this offense is terrible. They're absolutely horrible.
I agree.
There's nothing to like.
I agree. That's why I said flex worthy. That's it. That's all.
Flex worthy would be starting lineup.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Josh Gordon's going to be back, and Kaiser has played okay lately with Coleman and Gordon back. Is Kaiser a guy you think could be serviceable?
No.
You're a smart man, Kevin Cotillo. Let me say that right now.
Every once in a while, I make the right choice, and that would be it. This would be my time for the year, so that'll be all.
Well, all right. So let's jump over to Cincinnati, unless you got something to say, Kevin.
No, I was just going to say I did start Duke Johnson in our dynasty league, so Just so you know, I did say he's not startable, but he is in our league.
Yeah,
you could trade him to me if you like.
Just so no one else should start him, but I'm gonna continue to start him. Just so everyone knows.
I mean, it's a 20-man roster with 11 starting positions, which we've all gone over the fact that I screwed that up, and it should not have 11 startable positions. So
Agreed.
On a weekly basis, there's guys we tell everybody not to start, but we're in such deep leagues, we end up starting them anyway. We're just big fans. So over on the Cincinnati side, the Bengals win this one 30-16. Andy Dalton plays, he has a good day, a serviceable day, 23.2 points actually, because he did add 26 rushing yards. But Kevin, a guy we've spoken about over and over and over again, he had his breakout day. This was the breakout day, right? He's an RB1 the rest of the way, right?
Oh, yeah, this is it, yeah. Look, it's a great day.
Joe Mixon, 114.
Yeah, 23 carries, 114 yards, and a touchdown. He gets in the passing game with 3 for 51. Great day all around. It was exactly what people who've been talking him up all season and preseason and all of that. This is what they said he can do, and I'm happy that that he finally did it, and hopefully people still had him in their lineups. Like I said before, I'm okay missing this game, and I don't know that I would have missed this game. I don't own him anywhere, but I don't know that I would have missed this game anyway because having him in against the Browns seems like a no-brainer, even though he's struggled. So, but are you going to put him in the rest of the season? Are we expecting this to continue? I guess I would ask you that, Sal, because I don't. I don't expect it to be something that you're going to see every week.
Well, I'll tell you what I expect. So he got 23 carries. Giovanni Bernard got 3. he got 3 receptions. Giovanni Bernard got 1. What it says to me is he's the full-blown workhorse back in this offense now, and I do think that he'll bring you RB2 value the rest of the way. So, yeah, I would be starting him as an RB2 for my teams the rest of the way. I own him in one place, because he did get drafted earlier than I would have even taken him in most leagues. So, but yeah, if I own him.
So he's got matchups against the Steelers, Bears, Vikings, Lions, and then if you play in Week 17, the Ravens. That is a tough road.
Yeah, tough, but the Ravens are better against the pass, and Jamal Williams ate up the Steelers last night, so he could get run there. The Bears are coming back to earth a little bit, and so the Vikings would be the one team that I'd be worried about. That's Week 15. So yeah. I'll have to cross that bridge when I get there. Hopefully I have the opportunity to make that decision in Week 15.
The point I make though, Sal, is just that though, right? To me, you're looking at each individual matchup with him for the rest of the year. It's not in my mind, it's not an auto start. There are definitely ones you'll take him out of.
Okay, well, that's going to depend on your depth, of course, but
obviously.
Steve, you have anything you want to add about these garbage Ohio teams?
Nope, not a whole lot. Just that Tyler Kroft, he seems to get into the end zone quite often. So if you're ever in a pinch at tight end, he is definitely somebody that you can throw in there. And but he doesn't seem to do a bunch else. AJ Green, 5 for 66, no touchdown this week, but he's somebody that you're going to be throwing in there every week. Yeah, just keep rolling out the guys that you're going to be rolling out on this team. That's all. Not a whole lot more.
All right, so speaking of teams that you cannot believe are in the playoffs or playoff hunt, let's talk about a team that's in first place in their division, the Tennessee Titans. I mean, we've talked about this even a couple of weeks ago. How is that even possible? I don't see anything good on a weekly basis from this team, but they're 7-4, and they're in a tie for the division lead with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They play the Colts, the Colts have nothing. They bring nothing to the table for me anymore. Jack Doyle's a guy I guess you're starting on a weekly basis, 7 for 94. I doubt people are even starting Frank Gore at this point. He did have 62 yards and a touchdown, but I mean, is there anything on the Colts side that either one of you guys want to talk about that's valuable going forward?
I mean, I think T.Y. Hilton's valuable going forward. I just think you got to deal with these types of games, right? We've seen him have this game, and then we've seen him have 7 catches, 156 yards, and 2 touchdowns, right? So we've seen, and that's what you get. You get one or the other with him. It never seems to be in the middle, but you can't take that out of your lineup. So he's a guy that you're going to start. I think you're right about Jack Doyle. I think he's a regular start. I think that the volume's going to be there for him, and he catches enough passes. You'd like to see him get in the end zone, but we've talked about it plenty of times. 7 for 94 is a tight end 1, so you gotta like that. And but no, that's it. I mean, Frank Gore scored, but like you said, most people probably had him on the bench.
Yep, don't disagree with any of that at all.
Steve, for me, I'm going to say personally, T.Y. Hilton's starting to become Jordy Nelson territory. I understand the talent. I understand how great he could be with a Pro Bowl. It's been a few weeks now since I've even gotten that out of T.Y. Hilton, and the sporadicness of it and the possibility of it, I might have to go with something more reliable.
Yeah, he has definitely reached that territory where, Kevin said he has those weeks where he, goes off for 150 and 2 touchdowns, but when he has these types of weeks and these 2 for 15 like he had this Sunday seem to be the majority of the weeks that he has. When do you just bite the bullet and say I'm okay with that happening on the bench? I want to see more consistency out of it before I put him in my starting lineup. I totally agree with that. I can't argue with anyone that wants to put him on their bench just like Jordy Nelson.
I think next week's probably the week. I mean, they play Jacksonville. Jacksonville's obviously an incredible defense. So if you are going to bench him, next week would probably be the one that I would look at. and I mean, even further, they have Buffalo and then Denver after that. So this 3-game stretch for them. I know Denver hasn't played as well, and Buffalo's been kind of up and down defensively, but it's a tough 3-game stretch for a receiver. So.
All right, so over on the Tennessee side, they win this game. They're 7-4, and there's nothing to get excited about. Mariota is just not worth putting in your lineup this year. Ongoing saga of Henry and Murray. They get basically equal touches, and Murray does nothing yardage-wise but gets the touchdown, and then Henry does well picking up yardage but gets no touch. So it's just been so frustrating all year, and I don't know going into playoffs how comfortable you could be starting either one of those guys. And I think that the only consistent person you can trust on a weekly basis is Delaney Walker. Steve, tell me I'm wrong.
No, I won't. I can't tell you you're wrong. You're absolutely right. That's what I was going to say. Delaney Walker is the only one that you can start with any reliable consistency. Rashard Matthews, when he is in there, you can probably get away with that. He does seem to get a lot of receptions when he is active. But the running backs at this point, it has just gone downhill from the beginning of the season. You used to be able to rely on DeMarco Murray. You cannot do that anymore. 12 carries for 9 yards. It's absolutely terrible. He salvages his day with the touchdown, like you said. Derrick Henry gets the yardage. Yeah, I won't rely on anybody from this offense. Delaney Walker, you're not wrong.
Kev, anything for this game before we move on?
So I'm going to say I'm finally going to agree with you. Get old man Murray out. Let's just see what the kid can do finally. This is a turning point for me. I mean, at this point, I think you said it. They're 7-4. They're tied for the division lead. At this point, you can't keep running 12 for 9 out there, even though he did score. You just can't. I mean, I don't see why they don't just let Henry run with it and see what happens. And if you need to, you spell him with Murray. Then you have, one of the best 1-2 tandems, but you're still giving the majority to the fresh legs. And hopefully, maybe that was their plan going in, and maybe we'll start to see this shift. I think this is the first game in a while where Henry actually got more carries. So maybe we'll start to see that shift a little bit, and they've been kind of doing that strategically, but we'll see. But I finally agree with you. They finally reached that point for me.
Oh, this is a very nice. Steve, can you mark this down? I'm not sure what the date is, but get the date and the time.
11/27, 2017.
Nice.
Yeah, 5:58 p.m.
That was nice. Is that where we're?
Kevin
was you agreed with
nice.
Oh, and that I agreed. Okay, good.
And agreed with.
All right, let's jump over before we start getting stuff from Steve. Here's a game. Here's one of those what makes sense in the NFL games, right? The Buffalo Bills basically they've given up on their season 3 different times this year. The Kansas City Chiefs came out of the gates this year absolutely annihilating your Patriots on opening night, getting off to a 5-0 start. And they're now 6-5. They've lost 5 out of the last 6. The offense has stalled terribly. Alex Smith looks like Alex Smith. Kareem Hunt forgot how to play football. He can't get anything done. All the people who stuck with him early in the year and didn't sell him are ready to kill themselves. And all the people who bought on him big early in the year are ready to kill themselves. Kevin, please, what can we do if we own anybody in his offense? Can we trust anybody going forward, or is this abandoned ship?
I think I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I've been saying for a while that I think Andy Reid's going to screw this up somehow, but I didn't think it would be this bad. Like I thought they'd kind of be play 500 for the rest of the season. I didn't expect them to go 5 out of 6 losses, and not only that, but just regress tremendously as an offense. I mean, there's nothing here. You have to. I don't know. I mean. Think about what we just talked about. You're talking about Jordy Nelson and T.Y. Hilton as guys you're pulling out of your starting lineup. Now you're talking about a guy, Kareem Hunt, who was the number 1 running back in fantasy for the first 5 weeks of the season, if not more. And you're pulling him. You might be pulling him out of your starting lineup because you're getting days like 11 for 17. I mean, it's unbelievable. This offense is lost, and you gotta expect that they're going to get it back on track at some point. So I would probably continue to roll out Kareem Hunt and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, but that's it for me. Those people that were starting to depend on Alex Smith, forget it. I don't think you can. I think you go with those 3 guys because you don't want to miss the big weeks, but it's going to be tough.
Let's talk real football for a second, aside from fantasy football. So the Chiefs are 6-5, and the Chargers are charging, for lack of a better pun, up the division at 5
No,
and
they're
6. The
better.
Raiders are
They've
now
got to be.
the Raiders are now 5 and 6. So neither one of those teams are out of it. They're breathing down their necks. Could you see either one of you guys see a scenario where they go to Mahomes?
Ugh. That would be risky. I don't see Andy Reid having the
Stones.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think he's got the stones to do that. I think he sticks with the veteran. I think I would probably do the same, which just goes to show how weak I am. Yeah, I don't think I would be able to do that.
I think it's tough to do. Right?
Kareem Hunt shouldn't be getting 11 carries. Like, 11 carries for him in this offense, it's not enough.
Steve, he only got 17 yards.
I understand that.
I mean, at a certain point, you have to abandon the run a little bit, don't you?
But it's not like he got those in the first half, and then they just abandoned it. That's that's how sporadic his carries were throughout the game. It doesn't make any sense. He should be getting closer to 20, and you got to do something. Their offense is just like Sal said. It's in shambles right now. They don't know what they're doing.
So my answer to your question, Sal, I'm like Steve. I would find it hard to do, but I think they probably should at this point, because not only are you talking about the Chargers, who look great all of a sudden, the Raiders are at 5 and 6 too. So that's a one game for all three of them. Granted, Denver's terrible, so there's no chance of them coming up. But
That was a definite shot at you, Steve. Let's move over to the.
I don't disagree. That's for sure.
Bills, and again, it just seems in these first few games that we're talking, there's seemingly no offense from some of these teams at all. I mean, Tyrod Taylor got the start again, and it's a typical Tyrod Taylor day. It's a nice day. It's a 183 and a touchdown, and then he adds 27 yards rushing. He doesn't get a rushing touchdown. It could be a little bit nicer. Well, Sean McCoy, decent yardage total, but 22 carries for 49 yards, not what you were expecting coming off of last week's game. Charles Clay, 4 for 60. All right, we thought Taylor comes back. He looks a little bit better. Nobody started Zay Jones, the one guy who got a touchdown in his offense. So let's just the same question I've asked about some of these other teams, Steve. What is there to look forward to outside of McCoy, who we know we're starting every week? What is there to look forward to in this offense? Jordan Matthews is out now. I mean, Kelvin Benjamin, rather, is out, I believe, for the season, maybe with a meniscus injury.
Yeah, Zay Jones is somebody that you might be able to plug and play, but like we've said, getting so deep into the season, you're not going to feel very comfortable about that. Charles Clay, tight end, that position is so volatile every single week. He is definitely somebody that is in play as long as he's healthy, and as long as Tyrod Taylor is quarterback for the Bills, he's somebody that you can throw in there. And Tyrod Taylor is also someone I would still feel comfortable with as long as he's starting. He's got a floor. We saw that this week. This is his floor. That team scores 16 points, does not do much, a lot of it on field goals, and he still gets a decent output, only 14 points in most leagues. Not exactly great, but like we said, he is a safe floor. So he's somebody that I'd feel semi-comfortable with, but other than that, all the wide receivers you're not going to want to put in there every week. LaShawn McCoy, Tyrod Taylor, Charles Clay, those are the guys that you can rely on, and that's about it.
All right, let's jump over to a game that Kevin attended yesterday. He finally got back into the stadium.
It was nice. It was nice being there.
A few missed games, right? Get back home, And before we get to your boys, because they actually finally are an offense that produced fantasy relevant players yesterday. Steve, let's talk about the Dolphins. Matt Moore got the start. Kevin, right? Finally, I got what I wanted. He looked terrible. 215 of the touchdown and 2 interceptions. The running game continues to baffle us, just like over in Tennessee. 8 carries, 9 carries. Nobody gets great yardage. Williams, I believe, ends up hurt. So now Drake becomes an interesting because maybe he can get 20 carries in the game. Landry doesn't score a touchdown for the first time in, I believe, 4 or 5 games. 8 for 70. Again, there's nothing to pull from this offense that was fantasy relevant. So, Steve, what do you think about Drake going forward if Williams is out? And, of course, we're going to continue to start Landry. And is there any other receiving option that you like in this offense right now?
Yeah, I think the Dolphins can be covered pretty quickly. With Williams out, Drake is a startable RB2 type prospect just because of the volume that he should see. In the receiving game, you're going to start Landry, like you said, but Parker has not looked good. It's Kenny Stills who was supposed to have this connection with Matt Moore. That did not come to fruition on Sunday. He only had 3 for 47. And regardless of who's in there at quarterback, Matt Moore or Jay Cutler, they're not going to be anybody that you can rely on. So Kenyon Drake next week, Jarvis Landry next week, those are the guys that you're going to want to start. And that's all you're going to be able to do. So that's it. That's all you got.
All right. And, I mean, Kevin was so excited about the possibility of talking about the Patriots that he just disappeared on us. So,
Great.
So let's get into the Patriots. I'm sure Kevin's going to pop back in here any second now. Steve, what I find interesting this year is, Tom Brady, he has a 4-touchdown game, and he's had a couple of big touchdown games. But the big yardage has not been up. There he is. Hi, Kevin.
Hey, guys. What's up? What's going?
I was just about – we started to talk about the Patriots, and then I started to talk to Steve about it. But let me jump over to you.
Sure.
What I was just mentioning is that Tom Brady, the touchdowns are still there. 4 touchdowns in this game. He's had some other big touchdown days this year. But he doesn't need to put up those gaudy passing yardage stats this year because they're relying more on a contingency of running backs. Do you think that that's something that is – that's the way it is now in New England? It's going to continue. We should be expecting 300-yard days, but when he gets around the goal line, he'll be looking for guys like Gronk and Cooks and even Burkhead, who caught a short touchdown pass yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to take what the defense gives them, and I know that's a cliche and it's not really helpful as far as analysis goes, but it really is true when it comes to the Patriots, and when you're getting chunk plays like they did yesterday against defenses that just can't stop the run. I mean, they rushed for 196 yards, and that's all in, and that's including a -4 from Brady. So you're talking a 200-yard day on the ground. You really can't argue with that. You got to keep going to it. Dion Lewis was getting huge, big runs and continuously just picking up first down. So. I think that's what they're going to do. They're not going to make Brady throw it a ton just because he can. So if they can utilize the running backs and rotate through them, you see Dion Lewis with 15, Burkhead with 13 carries, James White with another 3, Brandon Cooks got a carry. It's just when you see things like that, it's because they have all these options, and this offense is so diverse. They might as well utilize these guys and keep everyone fresh. So, but I think your point is correct. When they get down to the goal line, it's always about the guys they can trust. And you're gonna see Gronk. That's why he gets 2 touchdowns. You're gonna see, Cooks has definitely earned his way in there. You're gonna see guys like Amendola get red zone looks, and Burkhead, who Brady clearly has a good connection with. So those are the guys you're gonna see. I did think it was interesting. A buddy of mine that I went to the game with is a big fantasy guy, and he had Dion Lewis, and we were actually playing in a matchup against each other. And I was giving him crap because every time they got inside the 5, you see Burkhead come in and Lewis come out. It just seems to be the way they're going right now for whatever reason. So that's something to keep in mind as you go forward. But yeah, I think that Brady's obviously, it doesn't matter. You're going to start Brady anyway because he's going to get 4 touchdowns. So.
Steve.
Yes.
Hi, buddy.
Hey.
Let me ask you this, Steve. Kevin elaborated quite nicely on all the weapons there. Do you think? Can we honestly feel comfortable going forward, starting Lewis and Burkhead, 2 different running backs in this offense? Are we at the point where we can trust them?
I don't think you should ever feel comfortable trusting any New England Patriots running back because we just saw a week ago, or the last 3 weeks, let's start, 3 weeks ago, Burkhead had a great game. He had a touchdown. Everything was looking good. The week following that, I know in DFS plays, he was a huge cash play. Everyone was starting Burkhead. You had to start Burkhead. And that was the game in Mexico City against the Raiders, and he did not pan out at all. He did not do very well. Dion Lewis had a great game. He had a touchdown that game. And then this week, they both do very well. Burkhead getting the 2 touchdowns. So I think they were both 2 guys that you can feel comfortable putting into your lineup, but you have to understand that they have the tendency or the possibility of having a huge flop. But because they're on such a huge offense like Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, you can start those 2 guys and know that they have the potential for such a high ceiling. I think they've both reached that point where you start them both each week and hope for the best.
Okay. I think one of the things to keep in mind, Steve, is that you bring up a really good point. Is these guys aren't Kamara or Ingram. They're not going to have that high ceiling. But I do think the floor is higher, which makes them more startable. So, I mean, you look at Burkhead, his last 4 games, 15 points, 7 points, and then 19 points. Obviously, the 7 isn't what we want, but if he's your flex, that's not bad. Then you flip over to Lewis. In his last 4 games, 7.4, 17.5, 18.8, and then 12.3. So, I mean, the floor keeps them relevant as far as the flex is concerned, but you have to know that those are your stable guys. They're not the guys that are going to have the 20-point weeks.
All right. Well, Kevin capped that off nicely. So we're going to jump over to the Panthers and the Jets. And an interesting game. The Panthers win it 35-27. And the team with the better fantasy producers in this game were actually the New York Jets. So living in New York, I get to hear New York radio, and most people who call New York radio sound like me, and they're complaining a lot, and they're angry even when players are doing well. And if you're a fantasy owner and you started Josh McCown yesterday, and he passed for 307 yards and 3 touchdowns, you loved it. But if you were a New York Jet player, fan rather, or a broadcaster, they were not happy with McCown today and the mistakes that he made in this game, including a big fumble in this game. So, I don't think none of us guys are starting. But do either one of you guys have McCown anywhere or start him anywhere?
Yes.
No.
Yes, I do.
Whoa, hey, so Kevin, you don't. Steve, where do you do this?
I have him in a 10-team full PPR league, where I started the season off with Matthew Stafford and Carson Palmer. And when I lost Carson Palmer, I added Josh McCown. And so he took over. I also have Brett Hundley on that team. But yeah, I do start Josh McCown there. And then I also...
You said it's a 2 quarterback?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so I start...
Okay.
Yes.
Two.
I don't start him in any league where he's my starting 1 quarterback at all. But
even a 10-team 2 quarterback league,
I know it's
still
crazy.
A stretch.
It is, but it's paid off. He's been decent.
He's had big weeks.
Exactly.
Sure, he's had big fantasy weeks.
So I've been able to roll the dice. I mean, the rest of my team in that league, I've got Todd Gurley, Kareem Hunt, Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, Keenan Allen. So, like,
that sounds like it's up.
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad. So the quarterback I waited on, obviously, and losing Carson Palmer, I had to dig a little deeper. So yeah, Josh McCown has been filling in quite nicely. Amari Cooper on my bench.
Everybody knew before the season that the McCown Robbie Anderson stack was going to be fantasy gold all year. So
Robbie Anderson's been good. He's been real good.
He has been good. It's driving me nuts.
Hey,
because, it's Robbie.
Well, let's get to the receivers of this offense. It could have been a 5-touchdown day if Austin Seferian-Jenkins could have held on to 1 ball and didn't have another one taken away from him. Was that guy? Anybody had worse luck than this guy this year? But yeah, Jermaine Kearse, who was a big player for them in the first 4 weeks of the season, he goes 7 for 105. Touchdown, probably sitting on a lot of benches doing that. But if you've had faith in Robbie Anderson and you've stuck with him, it's his 6 touchdowns in 5 games, 6 receptions, 146 and 2. Kevin, I got to think that even you, if you owned him, there's no way you can sit this guy going forward.
No, you can't take him out of your lineup right now. And I think I agreed with you last week when we talked about him. I'm not a Robbie Anderson fan. I think it's impressive what he's doing, and I have trouble trusting guys like this because they're gonna sink your team at one point, or at least I thought. But you also can't. You have to ride a streak like this. You just can't. You can't sit them.
Yes, only one other player has had a streak like that this year in catching touchdowns, and that is DeAndre Hopkins. So you got nothing from the running backs in this game. It's another tandem that is splitting the carries and touches almost dead even, and I can't advise starting any of them right now. Cam Newton gets an early rushing touchdown, and then there's little else in this game. And outside of Devin Funchess, Steve, who are we relying on in this offense? McCaffrey's getting yardage, but no touchdowns.
Yeah, he didn't get a touchdown this week, but he's gotten touchdowns a week prior, so I think he's still somebody that you can still rely on for a decent floor in half-point PPR. He's still got 10 points this week, a little lower than what you would expect, but he didn't get a ton of play either. He got 7 carries for 62 yards, so Jonathan Stewart got 15 carries for 26. For some reason, they keep giving him the ball. And he only had 2 catches this week. He had 5 targets. He only got 35 yards and didn't turn that into much. He got tackled. He got basically 2 goal line opportunities vultured from him when he did a bunch of the work for a couple drives. And so I think he's still somebody that you're rolling out there. Devin Funchess, I think you're going to rely on him. Greg Olsen, he was active this game, came back off of the IR, but he left the game early, did not return, has been seeking some more medical opinions on that ankle further this week, so that is definitely something to keep an eye on. Ed Dixon is someone that I hope nobody dropped. He might be relevant in the coming future for the tight end position. But that's it. Cam Newton and Christian McCaffrey, Devin Funchess, those are the guys that I would rely on weekly for on this team.
I got a touchdown on a Jonathan Stewart in FLAFFL.
Yeah, I know you did. I know you did. All right, it cost me a win. I'm sure.
Wow. How does that cost you? We're not playing against each other. It's not playing against each other.
Because 6 points from Jonathan Stewart are 6 points taken away from Christian McCaffrey, and that's what I lost by this week.
Well, I was stretching it.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's a little bit of a stretch.
No, it's not a stretch. It's actually a thing.
I'm sorry for your loss. I wish you luck. I don't know what else I can do.
No, that's all you can do. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, boys.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's move over to the Bears. We knew it was coming at one point.
You're lucky I waited this long.
Let's get over to the Bears at 31-3, shellacking.
Oh my God.
The Eagles they're just in full bore right now. This team looks great. To me, they look like the most complete team in the NFL. Now, I'm not putting them on the Patriots level yet, Kevin. Don't get excited. But they're doing everything.
Real football talk, though, for you. Is Carson Wentz the MVP, or would you give it to Brady? I'm just curious, because obviously it's been debated.
I feel it's Carson Wentz.
You do. I figured you would. Yeah. And I can't argue that. I do think it's tough because both teams are very solidly built and have very good depth and good players. So, for me, I think a lot of people get caught up in individual stats when you're talking about an MVP race, and that drives me nuts. I like to look at what the award actually is and which guy's helping their team more. But Wentz, you can't argue with it. So,
he's been really consistent. He comes out on a weekly basis and just gives them an early lead, it seems like, and they generally roll to a victory. And I just, again, like you're saying, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. We'll have to see what happens over the next couple of weeks, how these two teams finish and where they go. If I know the NFL, they like to get these young kids notoriety as well. Like a player like that, he realizes Tom Brady, but
they're always looking for the guy who hasn't won it before. So
yeah, they want to get a little bit more. Got to sell them a few more jerseys. It's been a tough year in the NFL.
That's it.
Well, let's talk about Chicago first. And here is yet another game where a team produced nothing fantasy-wise. Trubisky, if you're starting him, your season has gone terribly awry. But let's look at the running game. Trubisky leads with 12 rushing yards. Howard, 7 times for 6 yards. Cunningham, 1 for -1. Cohen, 2 for -11. They had 2 running backs with negative rushing yards in this game. Chicago, which was a cute story early on, has really, really gone downhill. and there's not a wide receiver you should be starting. And if you did start one, you got to what you deserve for starting one of them. Steve, tell me that there's somebody in Chicago I should really be giving any credit to.
Really nobody at all. I can't argue with any of that. Jordan Howard is someone that, you roll with these bad weeks, but other than that, you assume that he's going to get more than 7 carries and hopefully get into the end zone. But other than that, wide receiver-wise, tight end-wise, you can't rely on anybody else in this offense. Tariq Cohen, he's going to have good weeks and bad weeks, but other than that, Jordan Howard is the only guy on this offense I would consider starting. And if you absolutely were desperate, Tariq Cohen. Other than that, no one else. Quick and easy. That's it.
On the Philly side, speaking of Wentz, he goes for 227 and 3 touchdowns, and Foles finishes the game. It's nice for him. He can get out of there. They can protect him. What do you guys maybe could tell me?
Quarterback controversy there. He threw for 100%.
He completed every pass, Kevin, and people should never overlook that. Foles has had success in Philly before, so
that's
for those of you people at home.
That is false security right there. Didn't turn it over.
Pretty sure Foles just entered the MVP race. Let's look at the running game here. Maybe one of you guys could shed some light on this for me, because I was watching this game early, but I had to head out to that high school football game. Ajayi, for the longest time, had minus 0.4. He was going against me in FLAFFL, and I saw them running Blunt heavily. Even after Blunt fumbled, they ran him heavily. So 15 carries for 97 yards for Blunt. Ajayi only sees 5 carries. He did average more than 5 yards a carry. But was there an injury I missed, guys, or was it just the way the game was rolling and they stuck with Blunt?
I would say that had more to do with it than anything. Blunt seemed to be getting early work and doing a lot with it. And so I think they stuck with that for a little while. But later on in the game, it definitely seemed like Ajayi was getting more play. So going forward, this offense is going to be kind of hard to dictate for these running backs, because they seem to have 3 guys that they are content with using, with Blunt, Ajayi, and then Corey Clement. Wendell Smallwood was inactive, a healthy scratch this week again for the second week in a row, so you can pretty much write him off. But yeah, I don't know if this is going to be beneficial for Ajayi owners. I don't think he's going to get the bulk of any of the work. LeGarrette Blunt is still there. Corey Clement, like I just said, all these guys are going to get some play. And the way that this offense is moving, the more that there's a blowout, the more that they should be running the ball. But you just don't ever know who's going to get the bulk of those carries. So it's going to be tough.
Well, a guy that you can rely on every week and has been as consistent as anybody in the NFL this year is Zach Ertz. He catches 10 balls, 103 yards, and a touchdown. Alshon Jeffrey gets in a mix with a touchdown, 5 for 52. And Nelson Aguilar, who's been, he hasn't been consistent, but he's been fairly good this year, 3 for 32 and a touchdown. He's been getting touchdowns. Kevin, is Aguilar a guy that if you have him, you're comfortable starting on a weekly basis?
I don't know that I'm starting him on a weekly basis. It's kind of a matchup dependent thing, and what other matchups I might have on my roster. So for me, he's that fringe wide receiver 3 flex type guy. You're right, he's getting decent volume, another 6 targets in this one, and he catches a touchdown. He's had I don't know how many touchdowns he has this year, but a decent amount. He's been so he's getting looks in the end zone. Clearly, Wentz trusts him, but I don't know that he's an every week start for me. It's definitely a matchup dependent type of thing.
All right, and just when you thought it was safe to sit Javaris Allen, he rushes for a touchdown on Monday Night Football. The 1 week I haven't not started him in the last 5. Good stuff, right?
Everyone knew that.
Out of Baltimore. Let's go over. Yeah, of course. You said them. They go for it. Let's go over to an NFC West game. The Seahawks against the 49ers. In the game, it was probably much closer than people expected. Jimmy Garoppolo made an appearance in this game, and he actually passed. He threw 2 passes and actually
100% completion percentage. Again,
he's in the MVP. He's in the MVP race. He threw a touchdown.
He's no Nick Foles, that's for sure.
His QBR is up.
Listen, Jimmy threw a touchdown.
There.
That's true.
So listen, aside from Garoppolo, who nobody started. Wait, that's a funny story. 32-team dynasty. I actually started him yesterday.
Oh my god!
So
I have,
so
I have
stupid.
one league.
That is so stupid.
I know Steve would love that.
Oh my
I have
God.
one league where I am so decimated by injuries that I actually started Trevor Siemian, and we'll get to that.
Wow, that's awesome.
Awesome. We'll get to that in a minute. That's the next.
Yeah, let's hurry and get to
So,
that one.
Carlos Hyde doesn't have a whole lot, 47 rushing, 21 receiving, but 7 receptions total. So in a PPR, that helps him out. Does anybody know who caught the receiving touchdown for the San Francisco 49ers?
Well, I mean, we're probably both looking at the stats, so.
Do you even know who that is?
Louis Murphy's an old Raider.
Louis Murphy, drafted by the Raiders, correct? And then he played with Tampa, and they signed him.
I'm a big Louis Murphy fan.
He caught a touchdown pass yesterday.
Hey, in my
Evidently, you guys are close.
742-team league, I started Louis Murphy.
I've never heard anybody call him Louis Murphy, so Kevin's evidently very close to it. So let's get over to the team.
Best friends, Louis and I.
Let's get over to the team where people actually started some players. Russell Wilson gets another rushing touchdown this week. He passes for another 2. Russell Wilson is a guy who probably is in the MVP race as well. He's on pace to set a record for percentage of offensive yardage this year. And while they're battling with the Rams for first place, I think they might be a game behind. I think that he's really carried that offense because the running game has been nothing to speak about. Eddie Lacy gets 17 carries in this game for only 46 yards. Then Wilson adds his 25. McKissick, 4 for 22.
Explosive 22 yards.
And while I feel that way, he feels that way. We heard it in our chat yesterday. The eye test shows you that this is the core. He's not getting the touches. He gets another 4 receptions. He gets 8 total touches, and he gets almost the exact same amount of yards both ways. Richardson goes 4 for 7. Baldwin was a guy people were largely disappointed by, 2 for 25. And I'm looking all around, and I think that Tyler Lockett got one carry for 2 yards, and that's it.
You got to carry. It was nice. It was a beautiful run.
It was a beautiful 2-yard run.
I had a guy reach out on the Fantasy Life app earlier and ask about Baldwin rest of season in PPR, and my instant response was he's an every week starter. And I don't think I'm wrong there, Kevin. Right? I mean, this is a guy who he had 4 double-digit games in his previous 5. He's clearly the number 1 target on offense and can turn a game around in a second. Should anybody be doubting Baldwin as a weekly starter?
Yeah, no, not at all. This was a weird game from the passing stats. I mean, when you look through the stats here, you're talking about Jimmy Graham with only 3 for 34 and Baldwin 2 for 25, and Lockett didn't even get a catch. I mean, obviously, when Lockett doesn't get a catch, the passing game's off. There's no question about it. So, but no, in all seriousness, Baldwin is definitely an every week start. You know, this is a down week for him, but this is the worst you're going to see. So I would expect to see him rebound next week and really turn it on. I mean, he's a guy that you can 95% of the time you're going to get 6-7 catches out of him and a decent yardage total, and hopefully he gets in the end zone as well. So I agree with you. He's an every week starter. By the way, just out of curiosity, what did John Brown do this week? I forget.
Inactive.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
But Jerron Brown scored only the second touchdown.
Dante Moncrief got 1 catch.
Jerron Brown, only the second touchdown against Jacksonville all year.
Mm-hmm.
So I said Jerron Brown, not John. What are you talking about?
Oh, you said Jerron Brown. Oh, I had that confused.
You were hoping.
Yeah.
Why now? Where John Brown and Tyler Lockett are both hurting me right now?
Everywhere?
No, all of my best balls on the draft app, because I think I have them in just about every single lineup. I have both of them.
That's awesome.
So,
you must
it's not good.
Me.
I don't know about that. I think I'm doing a lot better than you in most cases, pretty much in all facets of life. But
wow.
On the draft app, I can tell you that I'm doing just fine. I'm still winning despite having those guys, because luckily with the draft app, with those best balls, other guys have stepped up. Like I know, for example, a guy that didn't help you all season, Steve, was Jamal Williams, I should say.
Until
and
now.
All of a sudden, boom, he's helping you out, right?
That's absolutely right. He is bringing everything forward for me in all of these best balls. And then also the Golden Turkey, that tournament that kicked off on Thanksgiving, I have found my way into the third round after drafting another dominant team this week. I showed it to everybody before the week started. Everyone said, Julio Jones, how can you trust Julio Jones? And it's like, come on.
Boom.
Julio Jones. He basically won it for me. I had Kareem Hunt on that team, and I've already won heading into this game tonight. So the draft app, keeping your fantasy season alive, even if you had Julio Jones on a team that may have decimated your season-long season, you can keep him going and get all the benefits of his glorious weeks like I just did. It's a fantastic thing. I'm going to win this $1,000 for a quarter. It cost me a quarter to enter this thing.
I hope you do. And who doesn't remember and love Jamal Lewis? He was great when he did play.
He was great.
Yeah, listen, if you got eliminated in the first round of that tournament, like I did, well, you could still continue to play other tournaments that come up on a weekly basis, and you could continue to just go in and do the dream team matchups, or just draft, go head to head with somebody and draft on a weekly basis. We've talked about this pretty much 3 times a week the entire season. You drafted a team. Your players are hurt, they're benched, or they're suspended, much like we'll talk about in the Raider and Bronco game coming up, because if you have Michael Crabtree, he was just suspended for 2 games.
Ooh.
So was Talib. But
he's got
you have
1 game for each chain he's snatched.
Yeah, he's a thief and an animal, and this is a draft read, so I'm going to get out of it. So, get on that draft app each week. You draft a new team. Your season, like Steve said before, it keeps your season alive. We know that the playoff weeks are coming up for season long, and if you're not going to be in there, you could continue to play all the way through week 17 and into the playoffs by going onto the draft app and drafting a new team weekly.
So yeah, definitely get in there and get yourself some money. Draft better guys than John Brown and Tyler Lockett and Dante Moncrief, and get yourself some wins. You want to go to playdraft.com/falafel, or you can go to the PlayDraft app on iTunes or the Google Play Store. You can use promo code falafel. That's FLAFFL, and you can use that code and deposit at least $10, and they will get you into a free contest next weekend. So get on there right now, playdraft.com/falafel, or promo code falafel, FLAFFL, on the PlayDraft app on iTunes or the Google Play Store. So definitely get in.
All right, so let's get into that Raider Bronco tilt, and this is going back to last year in Week 17 when Aqib Talib ripped Michael Crabtree's chain off last year, and really nothing came of it at that point. Crabtree did not retaliate last year, so I guess he expected this coming in, and he taped it to his chest this year.
Which means he was scared.
Yeah, well, the guy's probably spent a lot of money on his jewelry, and he doesn't want an animal ripping it off of him. So on that play where Crabtree was blocking an actual football move, Talib reached in and pulled it out again, and then they shoved each other into the sidelines, threw an NFL employee on the sideline. Which, if you watch the replay of this, the guy gets taken down from behind, and players come rushing in, and a Bronco player actually helps the guy up and escorts him out of the area as quickly as possible, which I thought was great because this guy was clearly in danger because both of them were going at it, and they calmed it down, and then punches got. If I could send one word of advice to Michael Crabtree, don't fight a guy who's wearing a helmet while you don't have a helmet, okay? Because your punch landed into a face mask and his landed into your face.
Hey, so I will also say there's video of Michael Crabtree throwing a sucker punch into Chris Harris Jr.'s stomach the play before that all happens.
That's true, but he's a Bronco. He deserved it. The important thing here is the Raiders won, and then also clearly the NFL was not happy that this was carried over from last year, that the bad blood has continued, and typically when guys get ejected from a game, especially early, like they did in this one, you don't see a suspension. They got a 2-game suspension. Now, it's already come across that they are appealing it, which is natural, and it'll probably get knocked down to 1 each. But, Raiders are now in the playoff hunt again, and this is going to hurt. We know that he's been really consistent, and on top of that, Amari Cooper suffers a concussion and a leg injury in this game. So this is really bad for the Raiders. But let's look at the statistics of this game. Derek Carr, who's become kind of a forgotten man this season. He has a good game, 253, 2 touchdowns. Marshawn Lynch is a guy who I said put him at the end of your bench a few weeks ago, but don't drop him because of the touchdown potential. And this is 2 weeks in a row with a touchdown for him, but 26 carries and only 67 yards. Just not that great. He does add on 44 receiving yards, which is not something you've come to expect from him. Kevin, are you comfortable at this point putting Lynch in a lineup, or do you think this is still a hit or miss type of situation?
I think it's going to surprise you with my answer, but yeah, I am comfortable putting him in only because you see the 26 carries and you know that they're not really depending on the younger guys at all anymore, and they're even getting him involved in the passing game because they're missing receivers who are injured and just ejected. So I think he's going to get enough volume, and hopefully you hope that this offensive line and this offense in general can sort of figure things out as they're now back into the playoff hunt and really try to go on a run and put things together that maybe he'll become effective. If they can get anything out of the passing game, if they can get Derek Carr to start playing like Derek Carr from last year, it's possible that things open up a little bit more for Lynch and you see him either utilized to kind of close games out if they actually get a lead, or at the very least, maybe the offense spreads a little for him. So I'm gonna, I think he's no more than a flex or at most a running back too. But so I'm gonna keep rolling him out there. But you're hoping for the touchdowns.
So, let's skip back real quick to the draft app. Let's say you drafted Lamar Miller in your league, and now he looks like he's hurt, and you're going into the playoffs. You might want to go draft a new team every week on the draft app. But anyway, let's get back to the Raiders and the Broncos. Steve, I'm going to – who is that? Who is that an impersonation of, Steve?
Was it Steve?
Yeah, I have no idea. I have people
that was
Paxton.
That was Paxton Lynch crying on the sidelines after he got injured in yesterday's game.
Oh, my God, you're so right.
Full circle, we've come back to the Trevor Siemian era, Steve.
Yeah, three quarterbacks, and we're right back where we started. He actually looked somewhat decent. I mean, he only went 11 for 21, but he did throw the 2 touchdowns. God, just get the season over with, please. I'm so done with this. Get the highest draft pick that you can and draft. This is what I want. Pay up for a quarterback, draft another offensive lineman, and protect the quarterback that you're paying for. And, God, just do something. Do something.
We know that Steve feels that way because he said this on the Gut Feeling pod, and he also said that in the chat, that this is what he wants. He does not want them to draft a QB. He wants an offensive lineman. He wants to pay for a QB. Steve, can we trust any running backs going forward in this offense? And can we trust any wide receivers? I mean, 5 receptions for 18 yards for Thomas. And, of course, everybody had Latimer and Fowler in their lineups who got both receiving touchdowns.
Yeah, I think from a fantasy standpoint, this season going forward, no. I don't think you can trust Emmanuel Sanders. I don't think you can trust Demaryius Thomas. I think you have to pick and choose your spots when you want to, roll the dice with them. But unfortunately, they have not been consistent enough to hold value as an every week starter. So, I think you hold on to them in a dynasty format, obviously. They're both young guys. They're both very good wide receivers. And just hope that Denver realizes that their key to success is paying for good quarterbacks and drafting people to protect them and surround them with good pieces. Their defense is still solid. I think that'll be fine, but they're just being relied on too much, and it's not been enough. So, yeah, Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, you can't automatically start them every week anymore.
All right, we got to move, as you say, and I know we have 3 games that had plenty of fantasy goodness in them, so we're going to have to go quickly.
Hurry up.
New Orleans loses for the first time in 9 weeks, going up against the Rams, who proved that they are for real by beating that that New Orleans team. Let's start with the Saints. Ingram has his worst game probably since Adrian Peterson was traded, but this is not something you should worry about, and you should get him in there every week, Kevin, of course. Kevin, talk to us about Alvin Kamara and how lucky you were if you took him. I mean, if you had Kareem Hunt the first 5 weeks, you were laughing at Kamara owners, and now Kamara owners are laughing at you.
Yeah, I'm spending my falafel days these days laughing because I have Kamara on the roster, and he's just phenomenal. 5 carries, 87 yards, and a touchdown. 6 receptions, 101 yards, and a touchdown. And you know that the Drew Brees trusts him. You see them getting him in. I mean, that's not a lot, right? 6 targets and 5 carries. So we're talking about 11 total opportunities, and he needed no more than that. And that's the key to him, right? He doesn't need that many opportunities. He's splitting time with Mark Ingram, and he's still being very effective. It's very reminiscent of the Freeman and Coleman tandem that we saw last year and the year before that, where they were both very effective with limited usage. And it's been great. It's been great to watch. Kamara is just so talented and so fast. I mean, when he gets the ball and turns the jet zone, it's unbelievable to watch.
What I like about him is that no matter the game script, if they're up by 2 touchdowns and Ingram's getting a lot of touches, Kamara comes in and is able to spell him, and he's so dynamic that he does a lot with the limited touches that he has there. And then also games like this where they're trailing for the majority of the game, he becomes such a dynamic aspect of the passing game that is able to produce there. And you get a huge game like this. So it doesn't matter what the game script is for the New Orleans Saints. It seems like he is a piece of that offense no matter what's going on. So he's matchup proof, and you just put him in there every week now, and you roll with it. He's that good.
Steve, over on the Rams side, we've gone on in recent weeks about how good the Saints defense has played, and it didn't slow the Rams down one bit. Jared Goff, 354 and 2 touchdowns. Gurley goes for 74 and adds 54 through the air, so another big yardage total day for him. And, coming into the game, there was rumors that they were going to feature Josh Reynolds in this game. Reynolds gets 4 receptions, 37 yards, and a touchdown. But the young rookie that was featured again was Cooper Kupp, 8 for 116. And then Sammy Watkins is such an up and down, erratic guy. And he's tough to trust, but 4 for 82 and a touchdown. Steve, how real is this offense?
I think the offense is real. I think a lot does have to be said that the New Orleans Saints' top 2 cornerbacks were out for this game, Marcus Lattimore, and then the other guy, his name is escaping me at the moment, but they were not it. They didn't play at all this entire game, so that definitely opened things up a little bit. We've seen Cooper Kupp have these big games. We've also seen him have quite a few timely drops in this offense, but I think you nailed it, Sammy Watkins. He's up and down. Robert Woods missing time is definitely going to open up the door for some more opportunity for him. But this offense is definitely one that you can rely on week to week. They are different. They are not the Jeff Fisher offense. They are Sean McVay offense. Jared Goff is definitely different than what he was last year, and they're people that you can roll out there every week. I think you can, seeing this output from Sammy Watkins this first week, I think you can roll him out there next week and feel confident. Same thing with Cooper Kupp, obviously Todd Gurley and Jared Goff. But whenever Robert Woods comes back, you'll definitely have to reevaluate that. But you got to roll with them. This offense is hot. Get him out there.
All right, let's get out of here. Let's move on to Jacksonville and Arizona. Steve, let's start on the Arizona side. Why'd you tell me not to pick up Ricky Seals-Jones? Clearly, he's the best new tight end in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Evidently, I did not understand that he was actually a thing and that he was going to make another appearance this week. But he scores 3 touchdowns in 2 weeks. You definitely have to start paying attention to see what is going to happen there. He gets 4 catches this week for 72 yards and another touchdown, like I said. You got to pay attention. Blaine Gabbert's going to be the quarterback for this team going forward. It definitely seems through 2 weeks they have a connection, so why not? The position for tight end is so shallow that you can definitely pick him up at this point and see what happens. I wouldn't have a problem with that at all.
Yeah, I'm kidding, of course, but it's someone you do want to keep on your radar. Gabbert, Bruce Arians came out today and said that he will obviously be the quarterback going forward, and he could see him, if Carson Palmer was to retire, being the starting quarterback for this team next year. Not much else went on here. Jerron Brown did catch that 52-yard touchdown pass, only the second receiving touchdown for a wide receiver against Jacksonville, and the first one since week 1. It's been an impressive run, but we know that they were a little banged up too because Ramsey was not necessarily supposed to play in this game, but he did end up playing. Kevin, let's talk about your favorite NFL quarterback, Blake Bortles. He rushes for 62
Ready
yards.
for some Bortleism? Can we start the Bortleism?
Yeah, he rushes for 62 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then basically loses the game on an absolutely terrible interception. So
that play was beyond dreadful. I mean, all you have to do in that situation is protect the ball. Literally, all you have to do is protect the ball. And he made one of the worst throws I think I've ever seen. Obviously, by this point, I was home from the Patriots game. I got to watch that awful mess, and it just reinforced how much I hate Blake Bortles. He is so terrible. Because you know what? This is a team. Even though they're an AFC team, they're a team that I find interesting and fun to watch, right? They have a good young running back, great defense that's amazing to watch because you just know they're gonna do something, interesting every single game. And yet Bortles ruins it. He ruins it for everyone. He's just terrible.
Yeah, I'm not even going to try to take up for him and argue with you. I'm just going to move on. And outside of that, it's a down game for Fournette, 12 for 25. D.D. Westbrook, 6 for 41. Yeldon, 5 for 42 receiving. Nothing else is really nothing at all good that came out of this offense. Marquise Lee has probably his worst game in weeks, only 1 reception for 13 yards. I would start to watch that with some of the newer, younger weapons that they brought in. He is not as reliable as you may have thought just 2 to 3 weeks ago. So, Steve, you have nothing to add here, I believe, right?
Nope, we got to move.
Okay, let's wrap it up with the Sunday night game. Another one people probably never thought would be this close, but the Packers did play well in this game, and we've touched on Jamal Williams earlier in the episode when we talked about the draft app. He does get 21 carries, 66 yards, and a touchdown. He adds another 4 receptions for 69 yards and a touchdown. Steve, can we rely on him as an RB2 going forward, or if Montgomery comes back, is that going to cut into his production?
I think you can start him next week with some confidence. He's getting some volume right now. That is definitely what I've said all along, is that is what he needs. He's not, the super dynamic player. He's a bruiser type of runner. But and then in the receiving game, it was nice to get that huge run from him for a touchdown to also add on to his total. But, yeah, Ty Montgomery, we've seen what he's able to do when he's healthy, but he's definitely seemed hampered from injury all season long. And when he's come back, he hasn't seemed to be able to last. So I think this next week you should be able to start with some confidence, see what Ty Montgomery does. But I don't know if, Jamal Williams has done enough to absolutely take over this job. And, I don't know when the Packers need to start thinking that maybe Ty Montgomery is not somebody that can stand up to the type of punishment that is given to a running back, as he's had that opportunity 2 years in a row now and has gotten hurt. So, it's something to look forward to. I think Jamal Williams is someone that you're definitely going to be rolling out next week, and then see what happens going forward, paying attention to what the team decides.
Yeah, I think Kevin was the one who pointed out that about Montgomery early in the year, right, Kevin? You didn't feel like he'd be able to sustain the daily rigors of being an NFL running back.
Yeah, I just don't think he has it, the frame for it. I mean, I don't even know about that. It's not even that. It's just he's just not built that way. He's a wide receiver. There's a reason he was a wide receiver. I think they'd like to use him in sort of a combo role. At least they should. That's what I would want to do if I were them. Is use him as a running back / wide receiver from time to time, and just kind of let him work in different plays, which would maybe open stuff up for either Aaron Jones or Jamal Williams. We're talking about next year, obviously. So, but I think Steve's right in his assessment of how it's going to break out the rest of the way.
All right, Brett Hundley has his best game as a starting quarterback for the Packers, 245 yards, 3 touchdowns, most importantly, 0 interceptions. Hits Devontae Adams for a big touchdown, which basically buried Steven Falafel this week. And Randall Cobb gets in on the action, 4 for 58 and a touchdown. And, guys, it's time to send Jordy to the bench. That's just a fact. It's been 4 weeks now. He's been really invisible. The only hope you have is to put him on your bench. Aaron Rodgers was throwing 40 to 50-yard passes pregame yesterday. The rumors are he will be back before the end of the season. But as they start to slip out of contention, I know Steve mentioned it the other day somewhere, why bring him back? But is always a possibility. If I'm desperate, I have roster space, I add him Rodgers if he was dropped in your league to the end of my bench. And if I can make a run and he's there in week 16, you never know.
I mean, at 5 and 6, they have games against the Bucks, Browns, Panthers, Vikings, and Lions. So they have 2 games in a row they can easily win. That puts you at 7 and 6, and then is Aaron Rodgers ready to come back there for week 15 against the Panthers? Then you have a chance to go on a run and still get to 10 and 6. I say you bring him back.
You start Aaron Rodgers week 15 in your fantasy playoffs if he's active.
Yes, 100%.
I agree.
In my mind, if he's out there, you are starting him. Even if it is the semifinals or whatever. If Aaron Rodgers is out there, you got to play him.
Agreed.
All right, so let's get to the Steelers, who are 9-2, Kevin, tied with your Patriots atop the AFC. After a few weeks back, Ben Roethlisberger was struggling. He was a guy most people were not even putting on their roster, let alone in their lineups. He's had a pretty good run the last few weeks. He throws for 351 and 4 touchdowns. He adds 25 yards rushing. All the big weapons got involved for Pittsburgh in this game. Bell carries the ball 20 times for 95 yards. He catches 12 balls for another 88. If you are in PPR, he was an absolute monster for you in this game. Antonio Brown turns in, which is just a typical Antonio Brown game at this point, and he's being double teamed in that game, which was just a joke. 10 for 169 and 2. And with Juju Smith-Schuster on the disabled list, which is not really a thing in the NFL, but it just came out of my mouth. Not playing, not dressed. Martavis Bryant goes 4 for 40 and a touchdown. He even gets a carry in this game, which only went for 1 yard. But it was nice to see him back involved. And, of course, the man we've all been waiting for, Xavier Grimble.
The X-Man.
1 reception, 1 yard, 1 touchdown. A perfect stat line.
Oh, my God.
He's MVP candidate right there.
Start your normal guys. All these guys are these guys are great.
Wrap it up.
Jesus.
We are done with the games.
Yeah, there's not really much else to say about these guys. It was nice to see Martavis get 6 targets. Hopefully he can still be relevant when Juju comes back. All right, that's it. Great job, Sal. Thank you for taking us through the games. We appreciate it. There's not much else to say. We had a little bit of housekeeping as far as our schedule going forward because Sal is one busy guy these days, and he's blowing us off left and right. So Steve and I are going to find a time
that came out wrong.
Oh, well, yes, was did. You didn't have to point it out.
I am working extra to make money, Kevin, but I haven't sold it to that. I haven't slipped down to that yet.
People probably would have just let that go if you hadn't said something. But, all right. So either way, Steve and I will be finding a time to do a preview show later in the week at some point. But you'll have to deal with just the 2 of us, and then I think we'll all be back sometime next weekend, Sunday night, to give you the review show. So that's what we got. That's what we got going forward. Steve, why don't you get to some finishing thoughts?
All right, thank you guys for checking into this episode of the Falafel House Fantasy Football Podcast. You can check us out on Twitter at Falafel House. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. And, of course, you can check out falafelhouse.com, where you can find Sal's return of the Sink or Swim article this week. And then you can also find all kinds of other good stuff like Doing Things and the Pawn Shop and Bettor's Corner and all kinds of other good stuff. So, yeah, check out falafelhouse.com, and that's all. Sal, on to you.
All right, guys, just going to remind you about the Festivus episode again. We know Festivus is December 23rd, so we will probably be recording that sometime around the 21st or 22nd. So please get your 1 minute or less Festivus rants in to falafelhouse@gmail.com. And if they are what we asked for and they're the right amount of time and they're really good, they will appear on this show on the Festivus episode. So if you ever wanted to get your funny sounding voice like mine on a podcast, this is the opportunity to do it. Kevin.
Thank you, Sal, and thank you, everyone, for listening. I just want to remind everyone that we love reviews, so if you could get over to iTunes or wherever you get your podcast, leave us a review, let us know how we're doing. We will be happy to incorporate your feedback into the show, or at least make fun of you for giving us bad feedback, so do that. Also, it is the holiday season. Thanksgiving is past. That means Christmas is right around the corner. And any other holidays that you may celebrate. So please add some charitable aspect to your fantasy football experience. Donate to Toys for Tots, do whatever it is that you can do, to help people out during this time. It's a great time to help people out. So do that. And like I said, we'll be back sometime later this week with just Steve and I. And until then, Steve, go ahead and hit the button.